Welcome to our first session for class 11 on the subject economics. Your first textbook is on microeconomics, and today we'll start chapter 1, the first session. At the end of the session, you'll be able to learn about the meaning of economic activities. You'll be able to differentiate between the meaning of consumer and a seller, employer and employee, consumption and production, and also you'll be able to define the subject itself. Why economics? Why this subject exists in the first place? You know, there is a person, an economist by the name Adam Smith. He's considered as the father of economics. He's the first one to define economics, and according to him, economics is a science of wealth. It studies about material things. But then came Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall, the founder of modern economics, he defined economics as a study of man in the ordinary business of life. This is a very important um, part of that definition. Ordinary, nothing special. Business, activities of a person in his day-to-day life. So economics does not study somebody or selected few, but it studies ordinary people, what they are doing in their everyday life. So that's about his definition on economics. So when we talk about ordinary business of life, consider ourselves. We buy goods. We need to feed ourselves. We're hungry. We have so many needs. We need to satisfy them. So we have to look for ways and means to earn, to buy things. That's why we are all consumers. So from where do we get these things? These things we get from the seller. Who is a seller? A seller is the one who's selling for profit. Some are sellers, but all of us are consumers. We consume things. Okay. So seller by himself is not producing things. He simply sell what being produced by others. So there are farmers who are producing agricultural products. There are manufacturing company producing agriculture industrial products not produced by industry. And also in an economy we need services. We need services such as service of a doctor, a teacher, a porter, taxi driver. All these are called producers. From producers to sellers to ultimate consumers. So consumers need to earn in order to be able to meet their needs from the sellers, from the market. So what you need to do is you need to have a job. You need to work. You need to get paid. Okay? So when you work with someone, you are an employee. And when that someone employs you, he is an employer. If you are the owner of an activity and you give wages, give work to others, you are an employer. Those who work with you, they are employees. So if you, on the other hand, work with others for earning a living, you are an employee. The one who pays you the salary, the wages for the work done by you, he is an employer. So in this case, you will be gainfully employed because you get paid and you work in an economic activity. What is an economic activity? Economic activity is one that is undertaken for monetary gain. So when you work, you expect something in return. You don't work for free because you have so many things to satisfy. That's economic activities. So this is what economists meant by ordinary business of life. We do things every day. We do things to feed ourselves, and we have to work. We have to get a job. Okay. So, but you understand, we work hard to earn. We earn what we earn. We earn money. But the money we earn is not enough to meet our needs of money or this resource that we have, they are limited. So that's why when they are limited, you have to spend them on so many things. You have to choose which things you need to spend first. Whether you'll spend on rice to consume at home or you'll buy a mobile phone without food at home. You have to make a choice because you don't have that much money. That's what ordinary people are, ordinary business of life. We have to work, we have to choose. So we have to get what we need the most first. This is the basic teaching of economics. Okay, it's the business of life, the people that we need to earn very limited. You have so many needs, so we have to choose. That's where problems comes in. Okay, so when we talk about that limited amount of money that we earn, that is called the concept of scarcity. It's not available in plenty. You can't get all of them. So scarcity is the root cause of all economic problems. No scarcity, no economic problems. We talk about money. Money we try to earn to get to meet our needs. It's limited, it's scarce. That's why it gives rise to problems. You have to make a choice. Not it. So we in every day to day we face various forms of scarcity. Scarcity nowadays of pandemic, we face a problem on food, on vegetables, on fruits, on books. We face this scarcity. It's not because it's not available. We face scarcity on job, on money as such. So that's why these are all the problems. We face scarcity because the things to satisfy our wants are limited in availability. They are not in plenty, they are there, but you can't get all of them. You have to share with others. So that's why you have to make a choice, a wise choice, to be able to get the best out of it. Okay, same is the case for those who produce things. It's not applicable only to us, consumers, but also to producers and sellers. Not it. Producers has to produce, has to make things, and he needs raw materials, he needs resources, he needs land, he needs capital, he needs all many things. All these are limited. So it's limited for producing things that are available in the market. And importantly, not only these resources are limited, but also they have alternative uses. Money, we talk about. Money is our resource. It's limited, it's scarce, but at the same time, it can be used in many ways. You can buy this, you can buy that. Can take example of land from the producer's point of view. Land has land is limited. Land is given. You cannot increase land. It's given. It's given. It's this size. It's this size from the general point of view. But you can use that plot of land in many alternative ways. You can build a house. You can build a shop. You can start industry. You can also plant things. You can keep it as for agricultural purposes. That's why it has alternative uses. Here we talk about farmers. Farmers need resources, land, labor, water, fertilizers. These have alternative use. Like I've said, land you can use in many ways. Labor you can put in any activity if not with him. Water you can use in many ways. Fertilizers can be used in other ways. So that's why things are scarce, but also things can be used in many ways. That's why we have to use wisely. Okay, so that's why we have to make a choice. Okay, so that's about the root cause of the problem. This is the definition of economics by Lionel Robbins, where we talk about the human ones are so many. We want to satisfy many things, they are unlimited, but the means to satisfy them, like the money, we can say land, to satisfy our needs are limited, are scarce. But not only are they scarce, they have alternative uses. That's why you have a problem of choice. Sometimes economics is also called a science of scarcity, a science of choice. When you explain or when we go forward, we'll talk about economics, but from microeconomics point of view, we have to talk about consumption, production, and distribution in an economy. Consumption, you understand, it's similar to consumer. We are all consumers. We buy things to satisfy our needs. Consumption is a concept. How the consumer decides, given his income, he got the money from his work, what to buy. This is consumption. Same thing from the producer's point of view. He has to produce things. What are the resources he'll use? How much he'll produce? What is the things that he decides to produce? This is the problem, the study, the concept of production. And after you produced, how much the national income or the total income, which is also in short as GDP, is distributed. We produce things to earn, not it? And this earning become parts of the national income of the country or national income, and how this income is distributed back to the people in the form of wages and salaries, meaning labor that we all work, or for those who doing business or production, profits, and also for those who give loan from money, capital as interest. This is the study of distribution. So when we study economics, from micro point of view, we have to understand that we have to relate to consumption because people are consumer, where they get production and how they um, distribute that, share that income, goods and services produced is the part of production. Okay, but apart from these, modern economists also studies many other things like basic problem facing economy, like how people are earning, getting employment. Some people are rich, poor, middle class. All these things are also part of economics, microeconomics, that is there. That means it is not restricted to consumption, production, distribution. There is exchange, development, and other things else. But this is just a start. So by now, we'll be able to understand the concept of economics. We can conclude the meaning. Economics is a study of how people in society choose to employ scarce resources that could have alternative uses in order to produce various commodities that satisfy their wants and to distribute them for consumption among various persons and groups in society. This part is from um, the second book, Statistics for Economics. We'll deal with this later. Right now, for the start, we'll talk about, we'll concentrate from microeconomics. So the second part that we want to talk about in this class is also know what are the central problems of an economy. The basic problem, the main problem of any economy. It can be a rich economy, it can be poor economy. They have the same central problem. We have talked about earlier that every economy, every society, they face scarcity of resources. No one can say, can claim to have abundant resources, always scarce. So they have to make a choice. They have to decide. They have to think how to use these resources effectively to get the benefit out of it. So that's why it's a problem that we have to decide. We have to find the answer. So there are these problems that we need to. So what are these problems? These problems are of three categories. The first problem is every economy has to answer is what is produced and in what quantities. What is produced? They must decide first what are the goods that the economy needs. And after they know that they need rice, they need oil, they need soap, they need vegetables of many types. They also need to know how many quantities, how many tons, how many quintals, how many liters of oil, and so on and so forth. So this is the first problem that any economy has to face. It has to decide on what is to be produced first and in what quantities, how much of goods, of services to be produced. Whether they'll produce more food or clothing or housing or luxury goods that consumed only by the rich, they have to answer that question. Whether to produce only goods from agriculture or they need to also produce from industries, whether they have the resources to balance the two, or whether they need services, whether they have the resource to use on education and health, very basic to society, or they can spend more on military, which is a wasteful consumption, so to say, but it's important from security point of view. It has to decide. It's a problem whether to invest in basic education right from the start or only for higher education. It's a problem whether to produce goods are commodities only for consumption or also for investment like machine, so that they can also be able to produce in the long run. So these are the questions that the economy, every economy has to decide. What they need to produce, what they need to produce more, what they need to produce less, and how much they need to produce. First problem. Second problem is, how are these goods produced? Not how much, but how. Every society has to decide whether to use more labor or more machine. This is the second part of the question that deals with the method, the technique. If they know they have to produce rice, that the economy needs rice, for example, 1 ton rice, 1 ton. Answer the first question. The second question: how can we get that rice of 1 ton of rice? Whether they'll use labor with plow, with traditional method, or they'll use machine like power tillers and tractors and threshers, modern method. What technologies to adopt? That's the problem number two. They have to decide. After they decide that, then they'll be able to produce. After they produce, who gets how much? Where these goods will go? Who will consume them? How will be how will these goods and services be distributed? Who will get more? Who will get less? Or whether we'll simply give minimum amount to all so that no one will stay hungry. We have to decide. Or we need to give service like elementary education and basic health, and it should be free for everyone or not. That we need to decide. So this is the headache of the economy, that it has to answer the third problem. So that's why the allocation of scarce resources, it has to divide the resources, divide the land, divide people, divide material, money, and produce, then distribute the goods produced and services. These are the central problem of the economy. So those are the things you've learned in the session. You by now able to know the meaning, activities, consumer, sellers, employer, employee, consumption, production, and also you should know what's the meaning of economics, because you are studying economics. Your home assignment is, what are your reasons for studying economics? There must be a reason why you choose you up for economics. Okay, thank you.